Hi, let's talk about the word replacement activity for Emily Dickinson's poem, I Am Nobody, Who Are You? Now, I didn't used to be a huge fan of Emily Dickinson. I thought, what's with all the dashes? She seemed a little bit too abstract, and I just never felt like I really got her poetry. But what I think is so fun about poetry is that sometimes at different points in our lives, a poem will kind of open up for us or make more sense or seem more relevant. So a poem about anonymity or what it's like and the power in being a nobody, the power of being an individual, but an individual who's not screaming your name, might appeal to us given the global pandemic, given that most of us are working from home or working in person and working really hard and putting ourselves at risk, or spending lots of time on social media, thinking about things like likes and followers. So poems can pop open to us at different points in our lives. What we're going to do is we're going to replace two words in the poem to help us understand why words like frog and bog aren't just, at least in my opinion, kind of a simplistic, obvious rhyme, but why they work so well here. And this strategy of word replacement is something you can do when you're trying to appreciate or understand how a poem is working, and also how a word works on multiple levels. So you're going to replace frog and bog with similar words. Now, that might mean just using a synonym, using your thesaurus and using a synonym. But I'd like you to think a little bit more creatively. You might try to find a similar word in terms of the mood it conveys or the emotion it conveys. So for example, I chose a pretty simplistic and obvious one, toad, frog and toad. But you might pick one that is a little bit more removed from frog, but that to you conveys the same meaning. So you might pick a different animal or insect even that makes a noise, like cricket. Or you might say, okay, frog, but that makes me think of something like amphibian or salamander or newt. Or you might even say something like howler monkey, because that's also an animal that makes a lot of noise. So it could be a synonym, but you can be a little bit creative here and you can be less literal. Think about denotation. That's the dictionary definition, the actual definition of the word. But of course, poets are also working on the level of connotation. That is our collective feeling about the word, the association that we have with the word, right? A word like slender to most of us has a positive connotation. And even though that's individual and subjective, generally words connote the same things to different people. Like I said, don't just pick the first synonym you find. Try to pick words that get close to the original somehow or convey the same feeling or maybe even convey the same sound. You might even keep rhyme in mind. Consider using a wonderful resource, the Oxford English Dictionary or the OED. Pierce now subscribes to the OED, which is awesome. You can go in and you can see the whole etymology of a word. You can see when a word was used, what it meant at different periods in time, all the different definitions of the word. You can really spend a lot of time getting lost on the Oxford English Dictionary, and now we get it for free, so I've linked it here, but you do have to log in using your student ID, using the Pierce database method. So like I said, we're replacing these words that you see highlighted right here, or the ones that you see right here, frog and bog, and this is just my example of toad and quagmire. After you have replaced the words, you can either do like I did and just highlight your replacement, or you can just type in the two words. I want you to pick a classmate's post and respond to it. If you're the first one to do this activity, you can just respond to my word replacement of toad and quagmire. So think about how the new words that your classmate chose, how they get close to the original, and also what is missed. How are they a little bit different than the original? How does the mood or the sound change with the new word? So you might say something like this. Toad is similar to frog and has the O vowel sounds that suggest croaking, right? After all, frog, bog, there's a lot of big vowel sounds that kind of make us croak and do a frog face as we say them. But toad has a more negative connotation than frog. And toad, at least to me, also makes me think of the word toady, which means a sycophant. That actually kind of works here, right? Because she seems to be saying that these somebodies, these people who are public, are kind of like kiss-ups. So in a way, toad makes some sense. Quagmire is similar to bog, but it doesn't rhyme. It also means an awkward situation or a predicament, while a bog doesn't really suggest that same meaning. Now, when we think of bog, we also think of getting bogged down. We think of something sinking. A similar word to bog might be swamp, although swamp has, I think, a more negative connotation. It seems more kind of dirty. And bog, even though it's a marshy, spongy wetland area where a lot of plants are decomposing and decaying, I think it has a less negative connotation than, say, swamp. So I know it might seem silly, but unpack these words, think about how the replacement words change the meaning or how they don't change the meaning. I hope that helps.